into the conversation about transfers, because it's that time of year. We've been following so many of them, but there are some players on the continent that could be making their way into the Premier League. Let's discuss that next with Andy Brassell, our European football expert. Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, you guys. I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Just about recovered from the Euros. Hopefully you have as well. Straight back into it. No rest for the wicked. Jules Kounde of Sevilla, great talent. How likely is it he'll be on his way to Stamford Bridge?
Very likely, I think, Hugh, because Sevilla is part of their model to make a deal. He's been there for 2 years. They paid a lot for him in the first place, and a few eyebrows were raised in Andalusia when they did sign him for 25 million euros. They said to City last summer, in a move that kind of helped City win the Premier League, really, they said, if you're not paying that 80 million euro buyout clause, then it's not happening. So they moved on to Ruben Dias after Benfica went out of the Champions League, and obviously we know how that worked out for Manchester City. But I think it worked out for Kounde as well, because it's allowed him a year longer to play in La Liga, to taste the Champions League, to play at right back as well, which had mixed results in the Euros, but he did a pretty good job there for Sevilla when he played there as well, even though Chelsea will be getting him primarily as a centre-back. They can get their hands on a replacement in Kurt Zouma, who Monchi, the sporting director at Sevilla, has liked for a very long time, and normally is a player who would not be accessible to them. So they get some cash, high quality replacement. They're also looking at the possibility, Sevilla, of bringing in Jerome Boateng, who's on a free as well, and who's been speaking to them after leaving Bayern, and who's in better nick than he's been for a while in the last couple of seasons. So it feels to me like a bit like the Jadon Sancho deal, a deal that would really suit all parties, and he is going to become one heck of a player.
How you doing, Andy? I'm still hurting from your pre-Euro shout about the Czech Republic being the team to watch. Really hurt me, by the way. But anyway, Aston Villa have offered 30, they've offered 30 million euros for Liam Bailey. Do you think there's any chance of that getting over the line? And what does he bring to the Premier League?
Yeah, it seems, Chris, that they're not very far apart, Villa and Leverkusen, in terms of their valuation. Again, Leverkusen would like to sell him this summer, so I think it's a deal that has every prospect of getting done. Villa have done some eye-catching stuff in the market already. Bailey on his day is amazing, and has been since he's arrived in the Bundesliga. He's beaten Bayern on his own at the Allianz Arena, but his day isn't as open as it should be. And I just think a change of scenery is good for him. It's good for Leverkusen. And just to have a coach and an environment with Dean Smith and Villa who say, look, basically, you need to step up and do it every week, or at least every second week, not every sixth week. Because on his day, he's absolutely fantastic. He's quick. He's good at cutting in from the right onto that left foot. He can flame fullbacks on the outside if he's on the other side. And when he wants to be implicated, he's really implicated. I think it's more application than effort, but I think a change of scene, a demanding league, different coaches, those are all things that will help him. And if Dean Smith and his staff can unlock the player that he could be, it will seem a bargain for Villa.
I have to ask you about Tottenham as well. I know that the deal with Kane's not done yet, but it's like they're already spending that money. Dusan Vlahovic from Fiorentina, 50 million. You know that Tottenham have always had a problem bringing in a striker for the fact that Harry Kane's there. That kind of makes more sense of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think if Tottenham were going to move on from Harry Kane, and that has to be done, I think Vlahovic would be maybe not the most eye-catching candidate, but I think one of the best ones out there. You're looking at a guy who's an absolute man-mountain, who scored 21 goals in Serie A last season in a below-average Fiorentina team without real much support around him. You know, he had to lead the line. And you know those sort of players who have the swagger to say that I don't care if I'm inexperienced, I can lead from the front. He is that kind of guy. He's developing his all-round game still, and he's really, really difficult to stop. He scores all sorts of different goals. And I think when you talked about Tottenham spending that Harry Kane money already, Chris, I think it's a very good point, because when they sold Gareth Bale, they did not have a plan to spend the money. And they spent it with variable results, give or take. Christian Eriksen, and they got some good stuff out of Eric Lamela and some less good stuff out of Eric Lamela, but they certainly didn't know what they were buying at the time. If they have a plan to spend this money, then it is a deal that could work for them. I actually think if they've got the money to do it and they could convince Kane to stay, because Vlahovic has got those target man properties and because Kane can drop a little bit deeper, they can actually work quite well together as well.
Andy, just looking across the continent, who's making the biggest moves? We've seen Barcelona sign a raft of players. We don't necessarily know if they can even register them, but they've signed them. But you see PSG and links with Pogba this week. Juventus still looking at Manuel Locatelli, of course, of Sassuolo. Which of those major teams in Europe is doing the job so far this window?
I think it's Paris for me, Hugh, because obviously they're spending a lot in wages, but in picking up Wijnaldum for free, who fills a particular need that they have, on picking up Donnarumma for free, who doesn't fill a particular need they have, because says Keylor Navas has been absolutely brilliant for them, and he's quite upset that he signed a new contract in April, and they signed one of the best goalkeepers in the world just shortly after that. To get a guy like that for free, I think it's such an opportunity. You get him and then work out what you're going to do to keep the peace afterwards, because to get a goalkeeper like that, who's in his early 20s, who's played 250 games for Milan, we saw how good he was in the Euros for those who weren't so familiar with him, and has got a real presence to become one of the goalkeeping greats. I think that's great. And then if Pogba's the next step, I just get the impression so much of it at the moment is about keeping Kylian Mbappe happy, because he has said all along, if I'm going to stay at PSG, I have to be convinced by the project. You can throw all the money in the world you want at me, and my goodness, they will. But he needs to be convinced that this is a team that he can fulfill all his ambitions with, that he can become the best player in the world with, all that sort of stuff. And that, including the extension for Mauricio Pochettino, who's now there till 2023, it's all setting the table for him. They could not be doing any more. And even if it doesn't make him stay, I do feel that they're all sensible signings and will put them back in a great position to have a proper crack at the Champions League again.
Andy Brassell, pleasure as always, our European football expert. Remember, you can get all the latest transfer news at talksport.com. And coming up, we will continue the conversation about those big moves this summer. We'll focus in on Chelsea and their search for a new striker next.
Kick-off with Hugh Wozencroft. Tuesday to Thursday night, 7 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.